Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm having trouble.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss RoboCop 2, which released in 1990 from writers Frank Miller and Wallen Green and directed by Irvin Kershner. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story for RoboCop 2 continues with Peter Weller's character, Alex Murphy. He is still a cyborg cop trying to stop the crime in crime-ridden Detroit of the future. But he is going up against Kane, played by Tom Noonan, who is the leader of the nuke cult. After Kane is taken out, the OCP operatives in charge decide to use his brain and put it in a new cyborg called RoboCop 2. So RoboCop has to bring him down.
I'm having trouble.
So RoboCop 2 was rushed into production while it was still in theaters.
Wow.
Orion Studios saw the dollars coming in and they were like, the next one, go. But Paul Verhoeven was like, you shouldn't really rush into something like this. Like, you need to give it room to breathe.
Yeah.
And the studio were like, now, deadline for the script is in like 3 weeks. And Verhoeven was like, I'm going to go do Total Recall. Bye.
Yeah.
And Edward Neumeier, I think it's Tim Miner, they came back to wrote the script for the first one.
Yeah.
And they were developing the script for the second one. They handed in a first draft and the studio were like, no. Make all these changes. And they were like, well, you've given us this deadline. Tell you what, we're all on strike because there's a writer's strike now. So see ya. So that's when they went and got Frank Miller in and he did a treatment. And then they looked at that and went, that's unfilmable. What did you do? We can't even translate that to a screenplay. So that went through more revisions. Then they went through a couple of directors before they got Irvin Kershner. They were like, hey, we're filming next week. Do you want to do this?
Yeah.
And he went, yeah, okay. I suppose it'll be a good last film. Because sadly, this is Irvin Kershner's last film that he would direct as well.
Yeah.
And RoboCop 2 came out and it had some success. I mean, it got all of its money back. It earned, I think, about 10 million less in the box office compared to the first film. Critics generally didn't like it, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But it did amazingly well on VHS rentals, and of course, me growing up, I was watching RoboCop 1 and RoboCop 2. Like, I couldn't tell the difference between the two of them. There was parts I liked in both of them, and so it had been about 20 years since I'd watched RoboCop 2 until now.
Yeah. Yeah, man, the trilogy. I mean, RoboCop 1,
What?
2, and
There's no
3.
trilogy?
There's a RoboCop with a pimpmobile. There is. Just admit it to yourself. But you can allow yourself to hate that movie because it's not Peter Weller. Peter Weller only starred in the first 2 RoboCop movies, and that.
I mean, to be fair, I consider the trilogy now the game that came out recently.
Right, yes.
That Peter Weller came back to. So.
Exactly. And yeah, for me, it was the same thing. Like, I remember watching RoboCop, the first one, like, really young. Like, I was not at an age I should have been watching RoboCop.
None of us were.
None of us were. But it took a while for me to get a copy of RoboCop 2. Like it came out and people just weren't renting it. There were just better movies to watch. And so I did get hold of a VHS copy and I watched it and I was just like, yeah, you know what? It just doesn't hit the same mark as the first one. But for me as well, this movie is very 90s. You know, like 1990 it was released, but it's like, for me, the word I like to use is like, it's grungy. You know, where the first one is kind of funky, kind of very late 80s with all of its blood and guts and squibs and stuff like that. This one's very 90s with its rock music and its teenagers rebelling and stuff like that. But like Gary said, looking into some of the notes, I'm like, geez, we're lucky we even got what we got.
Right.
You know, it looked like it just kept going through these different ideas and people were just trying to want to do different things. And it does seem a little bit muddled.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the film starts off pretty well because you almost think you're actually watching the film. You don't realize you're watching a commercial
Yeah.
at the very beginning as we see this guy breaking into this sports car,
Yeah.
gets in, and then these belts come around him and he gets electrocuted.
He does. Magnavolt.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just great.
And I love how that kind of, it jumps to media break as well. So you remember it from the first movie. But the adverts that they do in this movie, I don't think are as good as the ones in RoboCop.
They're not, no.
Or the ones in Starship Troopers.
That's true, yeah.
Like, Verhoeven had a way of, like, okay.
Or Newmeyer did in writing them, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I didn't notice the satire first time around or whatever. But this time, the delivery in some of these adverts just didn't work.
No, but they are kind of playing on that comedy thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's one that I was just like, oh man, I didn't realize, I couldn't remember it being that dark, but there's a commercial for OCP.
I tried to save the company a few bucks. It took 2 days to download specs from Cleveland.
And it's for OCP Communications.
Oh, the dad
And
with
it's
the
got
gun.
the dad
Yeah.
who's just like, I tried to download these files over 2 days from Cleveland. They didn't arrive. There's this cute girl in the background.
Man, that's
picture.
That's harsh.
Yeah.
But the sunbathing one, I think, is
right.
even worse because you just see her caking that stuff on, like. But then it comes up in little words.
Repeated use will cause cancer. And it's like, well, because then the news report, they're like, oh yeah, considering we've burnt a hole in the ozone. It was like, oh.
Yeah.
But then it was also right at the beginning where it cuts to this nuclear factory during a meltdown in the Amazon rainforest. I was
Yeah.
like, what do they need power out there for?
Yeah, it's gone pretty bad. But we then cut to the streets of Detroit. You know, we're seeing obviously the homeless people. We're
Oh
seeing
my God, this sequence.
Yeah.
Now, for me, this was where I noticed that the music in this film wasn't doing it any favors. Because this sequence, despite the pan down the crime-ridden Detroit streets, shot
Yeah.
in Houston, Texas, but the Detroit, like, littered crime-ridden streets, but it plays out like the opening to Superman 3.
Yeah.
And it's that comedy routine of everything going wrong
all
down
these
one
people.
street.
Yeah, you've got the old lady who
But that's
gets
the
her-
music in this played it like a comedy,
Yeah.
almost, and it kind of is.
It's supposed to tug on your heartstrings to make you feel bad for the city of Detroit and the people that live there because they're under this oppression and whatnot from the OCP, you know, kind of corporation. And it's the same thing that they'll attempt to keep doing in the third movie as well. It just doesn't work. We want to see RoboCop. So these people, you know, we kind of want them to get into the situation. So you have the old lady who gets her bag stolen off her from the guy, and then the guy gets tripped up by the two prostitutes, and they take his eye out with one of their stilettos. You know, the two prostitutes run down the street with the money, and then they kind of get taken out when the gun shop explodes because there's a bunch of guys trying to rob the gun shop, and all of these people, I don't know, including the old lady, are supposed to be nuke addicts. The new drug craze which has hit the streets. Is it another one of the film's messages, or was it just something they added in because they thought it would be a cool thing to go along with all the extra crime?
What, drugs?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just another part of the crime, you know, and it is the driving force behind the main antagonist. The gang in this are the nuke peddlers, I suppose.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I've always wondered this, and I wondered this time. Like, I've watched this movie a million times. I've never thought about it before. But what does nuke really do? Like,
It's a bliss. It's an ecstasy kind of drug.
right. So it just kind of makes you high and happy.
Well, but that's it, because we find a scene later with Kane in his lab, and they're concocting different flavors. Which have different vibes, and each dose of nuke, depending on the coloured one that you take, will give you a different vibe or a different feel. So it's a way of controlling your emotions depending on what you want.
Yeah. I suppose the stuff that you just see down on the street is just your bog standard stuff. But the gun shop explodes. The guys drive in there. What is that rocket launcher?
I don't know.
The thing he holds up with the little... And I mean, I kind of recognise the actor. He's always in a lot of action-type movies. And then they hear the police sirens, because we've learned through the news that OCP have cut the wages to the police officers, so the police officers are striking, which means the crime is up. And, like, long story short, spoilers ahead, OCP are wanting this to happen so that they can kind of just purchase the entire city and then turn it into a mega conglomerate. I don't know if I'm using that word right. Company kind of cityscape.
Unlimited power.
Yeah, but there's still one cop on duty, and here he comes.
Classic RoboCop. Yeah, here he comes. The bad guys just start shooting at him right away, and I'm like, how long has RoboCop been in service in this town for? And you see him and you still shoot at him with your pea shooters?
Well, they tried rocket launchers on him, but that
they blew
seems
up
to
the
not
car,
do
it's true.
anything. Like,
Well, yeah. So why did you think shooting him with a pea gun was going to make any difference? And so he shoots and kills them all.
He does.
And classic RoboCop fashion, it's great to see the blood squibs exploding and blood flying everywhere, and the sound of RoboCop's gun. It's amazing. But where's the music? Where's RoboCop's score? God damn it!
yeah.
Peace, officer. Think it over, creep.
It's more just a kind of light industrial one that's kind of thrown on top, isn't it? Just
Yeah.
Every time RoboCop's on screen, you get this kind of audio cue to say, hey, he's a cyborg, remember?
Yeah. But now, here is where I have like a bit of a problem with the film.
Right.
In that we have just been introduced to the crime-ridden streets of Detroit.
Yeah.
And then soon after, we see this kid cycling on his bike, and it looks like we're in a completely different part of the world.
Well, no, because we've got to do the drug heist, the drug bust first,
true,
don't we?
yeah.
You know, RoboCop's walking down the street, gets to the place where the gun guys had said they bought the nuke, and he walks in there, and immediately he finds Kane. You know, the drug lord, the cult leader, the guy who's been assassinating surgeon generals and blowing up buildings.
It's Tom Noonan.
It's Tom Noonan, great actor, right there. And RoboCop's just like, I'm going to take my time to just slowly arrest everybody because, like you said, he's been doing this for a few years now. Everybody just calmly just puts their guns down and don't attack. Oh, no, it's turned into a
They just start shooting him.
Yeah.
Ladies, stay down.
And Tom Noonan escapes with his girlfriend and his adopted stepchild, Pob. And who's the Elvis guy?
I don't know, but this is again another thing that this film gets is in terms of how inferior it is to the original film is that they're all identifiable henchmen in the first film.
Yes.
They've all got a personality type, and they all get special deaths.
Yes, yeah.
The henchmen in this film disappear about 3/4 of the way through it and don't even have a death scene.
Man.
But the Elvis guy is memorable because there's a point later where you realize he's such a diehard fan, he literally has the corpse of Elvis in his collection.
Yeah, but like you said, he literally disappears.
Yeah.
3/4 of the way through this movie. He's there for a bunch of shootouts. He's there for
He's
some
one of the
major
ones that
situations.
dismantles RoboCop.
He does, and then
RoboCop doesn't get revenge on him at all.
he's just gone.
Yeah.
The movie just goes, yeah. And so obviously RoboCop dispatches a bunch of the henchmen, and then there's this one guy who says, like, I've got a baby. I'm gonna walk out with this baby. If you try to stop me, I'm gonna shoot the baby in the head. And RoboCop does some really cool things in this movie, and this is the start of it, to say, look how cool he is. He can bounce the bullet off this stainless steel door into this guy's head and will save the baby.
That was class.
That
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah. I mean, the trick shot he did in the first film where he shot the
nuts.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this was this film's version of that, I suppose.
Yeah, and then, yeah, like Gary said, you do cut to this whole neighborhood where it's peaceful and everyone waters their lawns and kids are riding on their
It's so
bikes
idyllic,
fine.
it's dreamlike, and RoboCop's just parked there, and I'm like, is this Detroit?
Is
Are we
this
still in the
Detroit?
same place?
Because
And it's the thing is that there is so much daylight and there is so much clean light in
Yeah.
this film. You forget that, like, the crime-ridden streets we saw at the beginning are supposed to be here too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it didn't feel right. And so, of course, seeing the police outside the police station where they're picketing and stuff, I'm like, it's broad daylight. It's so well lit.
Yeah.
I don't get a sense of, like, how dingy and dark and horrible it's supposed to be. So visually, I'm like, the contrast between the two films, this film felt flat for me.
I feel the same, in agreement as well, when we go to the OCP offices. And in the first one, we would just have a boardroom or maybe an office, and so it just felt like a confined kind of, corporation building. In this one, we've got these vast offices for the old man who sits there behind his desk, Dan.
Don't forget Johnson's back.
Yeah, Johnson. I mean, he's loyal. He's
Yeah.
loyal to the old man. Like, I was kind of glad they did bring him back and give him, like, a few more positional kind of
Yeah.
lines to deliver. But he starts to clash with Belinda Bauer's character, Dr. Fax, who she wants to build a new cyborg. And they haven't got any good brains for it. Because they all are in agreement that Alex Murphy was the best one. You know, he was a cop, a loyal family man with this sense of duty. That's what kept him alive. But they're having issues with him because obviously he keeps going and seeing his wife.
Yeah.
You know, and they have to get this lawyer OCP guy in who has to obviously basically tell him, like, you're a machine, you work for us.
For me, this was really frustrating to watch because at the end of RoboCop 1, he's like, what's your name, officer?
Yeah.
He's like, Murphy.
Yeah, it's
Walks
like-
off, smiling, like he's got his humanity back.
yeah.
Murphy, it's you.
Yeah.
You know, and now he's
whole
just
point.
like, yeah. And so now the beginning of this film is just like, I am a machine. There is no Murphy. Murphy is dead. He goes up to his wife and he's like, touch me.
Yeah.
They did this to honor him. And she's just like, ah,
That's
crying
it.
out. I was like, man, like I understand, like, Murphy is in there and he's lying to OCP to conceal that he's in there.
Yeah, and he's
but
lying
him
to his
having to
wife
do that
as
to his
well.
wife to make sure that she moves on because he can't, or he's struggling to. So all of that, I'm like, oh, this is all interesting stuff. But then when she gets in the car and drives off, all of that is done. The character arc of RoboCop was reintroduced and ended here.
Yeah.
And from this point on, it's just now Kane's bugging me.
I love that line.
Yeah.
Kane's bugging me.
What's bugging you, Murph? Kane. Kane's bugging me.
At the same time, like I said, RoboCop comes into the information that one of the police officers working for the police department is giving out information to Kane.
Officer Duffy.
Duffy, yeah. And Lewis and RoboCop, they follow Hobb, the little kid who works for Kane, to this arcade. I kind of really like the sequence because the music they're playing I've always really loved. That's the RoboCop music. Sam Kinison and this band singing. The kids go wild, yeah. Like, I mean, the 90s had a lot of cool rock, so like this was the start for me. But once he gets the information from Duffy and he's just like, oh yeah, I know where Kane is. RoboCop just goes off. No help. Doesn't bother to get any backup.
Does he need it?
Yeah, yes. They've got an anti-tank mine at the front gate. How does RoboCop dodge that?
Well, he's not in the car when it blows up.
They kind of watch him go, and like, would they not see him not get in the car?
Well, no, because the cameraman can't see above the post. So RoboCop walks out of frame, and so therefore they can't see him anymore.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then when it cuts to Elvis, because we're looking at Elvis, RoboCop doesn't exist.
Yes.
The car, it's like Schrodinger's car.
So the car just gets pushed in by RoboCop. They don't see him behind the car either. It's kind of magic of video editing, I suppose. But yeah, then RoboCop sneaks in, but they already see him sneaking in, so they just start shooting him anyway.
That's it.
And then the shootout commences.
Like, at the same time, I'm like, hasn't RoboCop got like thermovision? Shouldn't he be able to just look at the building and then be able to see how many people are in there, and then obviously know their positions?
Probably
and
some
stuff.
OCP budget cuts. They probably had to remove it.
But that's
But
it.
I do like that they do take RoboCop out with a swift chain swing. But then here's the real thing, is the real magic, is that they use a magnet on him. I was like, well, of course.
It's amazing.
It's like, how do you just disable RoboCop with a giant magnet? Supervillains of the RoboCop universe, take note.
This is what we got to give RoboCop 2. Tom Noonan as Kane he's not as good as Boddicker and Dick Jones, but that's because you got to kind of take those two as like they work together. But on his own, he's pretty smart. You know, he uses the electrical device to kind of stun RoboCop.
Yeah.
He has an anti-tank fucking gun in place to blow his hand off. He uses a magnet to lift him up. Like, his whole plan is we need to dismantle RoboCop and take him out of the picture, or
He's going to ruin business.
he's going to ruin business. And, I mean, this bit is pretty memorable for RoboCop 2, is they do manage to do that. They start to use, like massive huge saws and drills to cut off his legs and arms and leave him in pieces. And that special effect when they throw those pieces out in the car,
Yeah.
and that thing on the floor, that's a special effect.
Oh, hell yeah.
Not some CGI fucking thrown together. That's like, I know it's not really Peter Weller moving his arm and stuff, but
It's just a puppet, yeah.
the facial stuff as well, you know, you can... I love how you see a close up of Peter Weller's face and the detail. Like, I like to look at where the paint lines are,
Yeah.
and where the plastic meets his.
Yeah, it's an incredible job in both movies. It really is. I did want to go back to what we were getting to earlier, which was the failed RoboCop 2s.
Right,
because
right.
we do have them sat in a board meeting.
Yeah.
And the old man is being given a presentation as
Yes.
to where all the money's been spent on their prototype RoboCop 2s. And we get this first one that comes out, and it ends up shooting the scientist to the left, shoots the guy in the arm on the right, and then shoots himself in the head after his visor opens up.
Yeah.
And we see this face in there, but the comedic touch is that after he shot himself or self-terminated, the sirens come on and they just sound so depressed.
So somebody actually thought, you know what, to make him look like a cop, let's put police lights on his back. That's a great idea.
I mean, that's so 80s.
Yeah.
But then it's the real highlight is the second one that comes out. And this one's a little bit slimmer.
Yeah.
But it literally just stands there and just has a panic attack, freaks out, and just removes his helmet.
Yeah.
And just we see the skeleton, the rotting skeleton underneath that just screams in pain as it collapses off screen. It's like, God damn, that's kind of horrifying. So yeah, I really enjoyed that sequence. It's a real highlight at that moment. It's one of the first things when anyone mentions RoboCop 2, whoosh, that helmet coming off.
Yeah.
But we end up cutting back to RoboCop back down in the basement of the police station, and he's got all of his bits just hanging there, just face just contorting.
Yeah, they're keeping him offline for the moment because, like we said, Dr. Fax is trying out her new ideas with the old man.
That's right. And so we've got the OCP lawyer in there, just like, no, we'll probably just scrap him for parts now because it's going to cost millions just to get him rebuilt.
Yeah.
But we've got Sergeant Reed, who's just like, nah, that's one of my men. You fix him up. And you've got Anne Lewis there as well, just like, it's Murphy. You will fix him. You're murdering him if you don't. And I do like the scientist that's there, just like, you don't understand. His pain receptors are going crazy right now. He does feel pain. He feels the loss of his limbs still. The brain is basically trying to die.
Yeah.
And the scientist is giving him electric shocks to keep
yeah.
him going. It's just
Yeah.
like, it's horrendous, like the state of mind to be in if that was you in that brain, but
the scientists, I think, like they extend this character a bit more in the third movie, but this one, like you said, she's there for like 2 bits, and then she's written out as well. It's just like we don't need the scientist explaining to us that there's problems with RoboCop. The audience should already know, But it's like Dr. Fax, she has this boardroom meeting with a bunch of people, and she's just like, RoboCop's prime directives, his code, like, how can we update it? And so people just start to come out with all these stupid ideas. And so you take what was initially 4 prime directives to then make like 500 plus.
And they are ridiculous. There's a quick scan that goes up the page, and some of them are like, don't drive aggressively into puddles and splash pedestrians.
Yeah.
Don't attend
litter.
Orion Studios meetings. Yeah. It was like, there's a little in-joke there, I suppose. But yeah, it's like, don't rush traffic lights, It's like all of these really dross kind of things, which just...
Some of them even look counteractive to another one. So you're just like, how is he even going to be able to do that without doing that at the same time?
But that's the idea. It's to conflict him and confuse him and make him... and to break him so that in the public's view, this RoboCop is a failure, just like everything else, and crime will continue, and then OCP can buy out the city once it's completely bankrupt. And
this section now, this part, I think is one of the funniest things, but also one of the most ludicrous, stupidest things, is where he's been rebuilt, and he goes out with Lewis, and they come across the baseball team robbing an electronics store. Now, I know it's ludicrous, it's RoboCop, okay? I'm trying not to think too much into it. But this guy, who I'm assuming is the coach, I don't believe he's a parent, just a coach, has this team of little leaguers, little kids between the age of 12 to 15 or whatever, robbing the store with baseball bats and stuff. So then along comes RoboCop, and the guy opens fire with a gun, and RoboCop's trying to talk him down.
Well, he's not. I mean, he's just sat in the car still.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
right.
Lois
Yeah,
who's
Lois
taking
is
the
under
charge
fire.
on him.
Yeah.
She's like, RoboCop, wake up!
Yeah.
And she's kind of hiding behind him as RoboCop's walking towards him.
Yeah, I love
and then
that.
she's the one who shoots him.
She shoots him right in the head, takes this guy out instantly, which I'm like, awesome, thank you. And then RoboCop starts to question the children when he gets into
Well,
the
no,
store.
don't forget,
'cause
he's giving the Miranda rights to the corpse.
That's right. That's right. He tries to. Yeah. Oh,
And I
God.
love the fact that Anna, she goes in there and she looks to the guy and she's like, where did they go? And he's like, where did they go? They're
still
right here. Yeah. I mean, they are little monsters. Like, it's that girl hitting the guy with a baseball bat and the other kid with a camera going, harder, harder. I was like, okay, I mean, the film has done the best it can to paint a picture that crime and, unrest is rife throughout the city. And
But it's almost like this
But
is
this-
almost like Tromaville now with these
it
kids.
absolutely is. It's horrific to watch. These scenes have not aged very well. They are parody. They're kind of sketch moments. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like you're watching the same movie that you started. You know,
This is what I mean. This is how I feel like the third one comes about, is from some of these sequences. Because the audience kind of liked how, after RoboCop goes to tell the kids off, they all run away with the loot, and then he goes outside and he turns off the hydrant because he doesn't want to waste water, and so he's poetically saying a quote to some kids about a rock. And then he shoots a guy round the head to stop him from smoking.
I will admit, the no smoking PSA that he does was kind of great. It's a
waste of ammo, dude.
it is, but that extra sold that so well.
Thank you for not smoking.
His reaction, his stunned look as the cigarette slowly drops out of his mouth. I was like, that was great. That was really well
I love
done.
that bit as well where he's like, the moon is very wonderful tonight,
He's like,
Lewis.
it's daylight.
It's the thought that counts.
Right, we're taking you back. OCP have ruined you.
Your hair looks lovely that way.
It's OCP. They did something to you.
I'm fine.
And that's when they diagnose him and see they got this list of directives that he can't compute and
Yeah.
process. And they're like, how do we get rid of this? She's like, well, unless we pull the plug, it might kill him. And RoboCop's like, I'll do.
Yeah, he's like,
Yanks the cable out, walks down to the power grid and just fries himself.
am I right? When he stands back up, he's got no prime directives.
That's right.
Like,
Yeah, it
he's
says zero prime directive. He's
Zero prime
loose.
directives.
Loose
So
cannon.
He's even deleted the ones that he would have previously followed, serving the public trust and all that.
But we know that Murphy is in there, and we know
Yeah.
that Murphy inside is an upstanding, good person, which is one of the reasons why they believe that his RoboCop was a success in the first place.
Yeah.
That's why all the other imitations have failed, because Murphy is that sweet sauce, I suppose.
Yeah, and at this point, RoboCop tells the other cops, like, yep, Kane's bugging me, we're going down, we're going to take him out. And I assume they go right back to the same place that he was at. We don't get told this, but he just takes all the cops there, and you got the hot dog man like, they're going out to kick somebody's ass. It's like, but when they get there, Elvis disappears,
Yeah.
and Hob and the girl, Kane's girlfriend, they start to kind of open fire on the cops. There's henchmen there, but RoboCop takes most of them out himself.
Yeah.
And then Kane decides to make a run. Now, I had to watch this sequence a couple of times, but when they've got that drug lab and the cop goes inside and says, like, there's a bomb, and comes running outside, and you see the stuntman outside.
Yeah.
There's a stuntman in the background who kind of jumps towards the explosion.
I guess he didn't get the memo.
That's it, because it's a big fuck off explosion. I'm like, man, that guy got close. But there's another sequence as well where after this, Tom Noonan, he's jumped in this bomb disposal van which is full of money, and he's bombing down the road, and RoboCop is chasing after him, and he's grabbed on the side of the truck, hasn't he? He's
That's
holding
right.
on for a little bit, and they drive through a bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
The bartender, I want to know if that guy survives.
Well, I mean, you hear him yelling, you son of a bitch!
Exactly, because you see him get dragged along the side and kind of pulled down. I'm like, that looks like a real truck.
Yeah.
Did they kill
That's
stuntmen
probably,
in this
maybe it was
movie?
a real dummy. I don't know.
Yeah, like,
But yeah, it's actually a pretty cool sequence with RoboCop getting smashed up against the side. We can't see his face. It's pretty much a stunt double.
Yeah,
With the sparks flying. It's
Yeah.
really cool. And yeah, eventually he does like smack him into a post. It's comical sound effect. Patong. But then you got these motorcyclists that ride over his crotch.
You see RoboCop's
Yeah,
legs?
yeah.
He's practically doing the split.
Right.
I'm like, that's very impressive. And another stuntman, the Harley driver, when he grabs that front wheel and that spike goes off, I'm like, you're lucky he didn't get hurt.
Right. But then, yeah, RoboCop on the bike flies out in front of Kane,
Yeah.
spins around to the front, stands there in front of him.
What was Kane thinking? Like, if he's playing
Wait,
chicken with RoboCop and RoboCop weighs, what, 2,000 pounds?
I don't know. I mean, he already hit him once and he still managed to climb up the front of the truck. So he said, well, maybe I'll just do it again. But yeah, RoboCop launches himself off the bike right through the glass, takes him out.
Takes him out.
And so, yeah, the paramedics turn up. They're like, oh, there has been a drug bust and we've managed to get all these drugs and we've got Kane taking him in now.
And on top of this as well, we've been having sequences with the mayor of Detroit who...
I don't know whether I like his performance or I really, really like his performance. It was so over the top and cartoony, but considering how sort of stoic and kind of straight-faced everyone else is, he needed to be the lively, angered man.
Yeah, but it's also just how ludicrous this whole, like I said, is it a message that RoboCop 2 was trying to imply in 1990, trying to say to people, look, corporations are bad, drugs are bad,
but your government's also bad because they're bankrupting the country.
They're bankrupting cops and stuff like that. So we're trying to tell us, and people are just like, yay, more RoboCop. Because the mayor is just like, yeah, you're trying to screw the city over. And it turns out that he actually signed the paper that allowed them to do it.
Yeah.
And so now all this money that they're after from the Kane drug bust, they're not allowed to touch. So they're still in debt. But Hobb and the girlfriend, they've got money and they know Kane isn't going to survive. So they decide that they're going to try to ring the mayor during a telethon. That's how old this film is, people. A telethon.
Man, what was with that guy with the violin? He's playing Bad to the Bone on a violin whilst doing the freaking splits. That's their fundraiser?
And then he breaks his violin as well, which is funny. But Dr. Fax has got hold of Kane and she has opted that this is the brain that she wants to use because she also believes that Kane has this kind of god complex that she can play to because she can make him a cyborg. But also being a massive nuke drug addict, she can use the drugs to try to control the machine. And this kind of revelation all comes together. Like, I like the death sequence with Tom Noonan and then the gory kind of surgery where they take his brain and spine.
Yeah, but it's the gory sort of scalp being dropped in the tin.
Yeah.
But then we're back to comedy again as we pan up this tank with the spine and this oversized brain and yellow googly eyes. I'm pretty sure his eyes were brown.
Why did they need the eyes?
I mean, because they were attached to the brain. I have no idea. I have no idea because he doesn't need eyes when he goes in the machine.
No, he doesn't.
So, I don't know.
But it becomes this thing where actually the mayor gets the money or is being called up by Hobb and the girlfriend that they have the money for him. So he arranges a meeting. The mayor's aide informs OCP about this and OCP decide, you know what, maybe we'll test out RoboCop 2, but make sure there are no witnesses. And so you get the first reveal of Kane in the cyborg suit. And my God, what a badass.
Yeah, it is very, very visually impressive. And again, this comes down to legendary filmmaker Phil Tippett, who worked his ass off with his team on the stop motion animated effects for this.
Like, you had to top ED 209.
Yes, and I think they did.
They did.
I still think ED 209 is still much more iconic.
Yes.
That sort of slim dreadnought bulk design.
Yeah.
Whereas this one here was designed, I think they used the term Swiss Army knife of machines.
Yeah, he looks...
So that he's full of utilities and functionality.
Yeah.
And you see that from his revolving arms or his arsenal of weapons or his, like, you know, pliers or pinchers or blades or whatever he's got. And, yeah, the sound of his machine gun just rattling off, it's incredible to watch. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kane turns up at the meeting and decides that he's going to waste everybody. Not decide, he got told, ordered, and he practically does. He kills his girlfriend, he kills all the henchmen. The only person who manages to escape is the mayor, but he can't even say that he was there because illegally he was.
I do like that he ends up
money.
going out the shitter.
Yeah, yeah.
Right out to the river.
And
But I just want to go back as well, just because I did enjoy the moment between Kane and his girlfriend. Where
really crushes her head.
Yeah, but it was the fact that he was there to kill everyone, but it's the fact that we get his POV and it blinks over to memory. It has that recollection moment, and we see his visor open, this terminal comes out, this panel, and we see Kane's animated face, and then she recognizes who it is, and she has a touchy-feely moment with him.
Does, yeah.
But then, he just grabs her, breaks her neck, and discards her.
Discards her, yeah.
But I just want to say, it wasn't a mannequin or a dummy or anything. Her neck contortion was the actress doing that.
Wow.
And everyone on set were like, oh, we've killed her.
Yeah.
But no, she was like, I can just do that. So it really solved that moment and that movement really well.
That was great. I mean, he even kills Hob, even when Hob tries to...
Oh, so I'm supposed to feel sad, aren't I?
Kind of. I
mean, RoboCop feels sad. He's the only one feeling sad.
I like that. I do kind of like how the movie's done that. With everything that's going on, you're supposed to really feel bad for this kid. He shot RoboCop in the face at the beginning, and then he tried to kill Lewis. Looking out of breath, bitch. And it's supposed to be the conflict for RoboCop because obviously he believes he has a son, and Hob makes him believe that. But no kid deserves to be murdered in the back of a drug van by a giant cyborg.
Well, maybe this one did. I mean, he's a cop killer.
Did he kill a cop?
He killed loads of them.
Yeah, he did kill a cop. But so even then, emotionally, RoboCop's there. He's just like, I'm gonna go call for backup, and the kid's like, please don't leave me, And he gives him the information. He's bigger than you. It's Kane and stuff like that. And then there just seems to be this big jump, and both Gary and I were discussing it that there was really no third act for this movie, and even Peter Weller said on site on when he was filming it, I'm just fighting the big monster at the end. And it's well, yeah, because...
But for 20 minutes.
Yeah, the big fight sequence is all on top of Kane now, because he is a murdering machine. He does work for OCP. They're trying to replace RoboCop, so RoboCop has to take him down. And we have this evening do thing going on where, the old man of OCP... stands there and he's basically doing his Delta City talk again.
Exactly. I mean, this film is already repeating everything that happened in the first film.
Yeah.
From RoboCop being dismantled by a gang to being rebuilt to then chasing down the gang members.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
It literally repeats every single step of the first film.
Yeah.
All over again, but just ever so slightly inferior, much more inferior in some areas. But yeah, it's just.
Yeah,
it's almost a remake, but it has enough tissue to say it's a sequel.
Dr. Fax, she stands up and she shows the drugs and the old man gets the drugs and he's waving it in front of Kane's face to say this is what he's gonna stop. And Kane, the fucking drug addict cyborg's no, I want those drugs. And so RoboCop turns up with his 50 cal kind of rifle and starts kind of calling Kane out, and it does just turn into a shoot 'em up fight between two cyborgs.
Yeah, it's pretty badass.
Part of me really does want to say that the special effects aren't tight.
No.
But then I think maybe I have been spoiled by bigger, better special effects. This RoboCop 2 is pre-Terminator 2.
Oh yeah.
So we didn't have the T-1000 special effects that James Cameron was developing.
Yeah, there's no CGI in here.
No, that's it. This is superimposed model work being stop motion.
There's some live action, some puppetry, some stop motion. Yeah.
The most computer generated imagery you probably see is when that screen comes out and you see Kane's face.
That's true. Yeah.
Everything else is either Peter Weller in the suit or stuntman.
I'm gonna say it's unfortunate that the matte paintings in the background were up on the roof.
Yeah,
look terrible.
Or
whether it's just the lighting with RoboCop sort of hanging off the side of the building with Kane.
I think it's like I said. I think it's because they're trying to do so much to make it look good that something was going to give you. Yeah. The uncanny valley can only stay uncanny for a while.
It doesn't take away from the epicness of them fighting, in the studio and then down in the sewers or where all the pipes and then
I love the elevator sequence where he comes screaming up.
Exactly, yeah. And so then they end up off the roof, crashing down into the floor. They go through the floor, then back up onto the city level again, where there's police being gunned down.
The laser to the face as he's trying to burn his face off.
Yeah. So it is a drawn-out, extended battle sequence. So yeah, even though it might be anticlimactic in terms of the storytelling, it's really well done in terms of the visuals of just watching RoboCop face something that's almost indestructible.
Yeah.
And after a while, I mean, Anne Lewis drives a car right into Kane.
Yeah.
But Kane, after a moment, pushes the car out of the way, turns it over, he's back out again. But RoboCop's like, I know what he needs.
Yeah.
Lure him away with this. And Lewis has got the big vial of nuke. RoboCop sneaks around, because he can be very stealthy when he wants to be. He sneaks around and manages to jump down on top of Kane, rips out some circuitry, and then pulls out his brain, and then, well, smashes it on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
And like the whole time as well, you've had like the old man and Johnson stood up the top, like this could be bad. Watching all these people get murdered and ambulances exploded.
Scramble our best spin team. This could be real bad for OCP.
And so it then kind of climaxes where like Johnson, the old man, the lawyer guy from the beginning, they're all stood there and they're like, look, what are we going to do? And the lawyer's just like, sir, you might actually see some prison time. And the old man's like, nope, that's not good enough. And so Johnson's just like, Johnson had been screwed over so many times for this movie by Dr. Fax, who had been sleeping with the old man. You know, she'd been obviously rewriting RoboCop's programming. You know, she thought she was really getting away with it. And then Johnson's just like, maybe we just put it all at her door. It was all her fault. She's the one who picked the brain. She's the one who designed Cyborg. And the old man's like,
I like this. But then she comes up crying like, oh, I've let you down. I'm so disappointed. And he's like, oh, I'll be all right. It'll be all right. And he turns to Johnson. He's like, remember what we're talking about? Get onto it right now.
Get on it right now. Right? Like, she's going to jail for this.
Yeah. But, I mean, this film ends with that storyline really unresolved, so to speak, because we see the two of them get in the limousine and drive off. So, like, so OCP's still around. He's not been punished or caught.
I've always felt that about this ending, but it's RoboCop's line that kind of just makes me laugh. Because that's how I feel, where Lewis is saying that, isn't she? She's like, he's going to get away with it again. And RoboCop's just like, don't worry, Lewis, he's only human. Da, 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 da. I'm like...
Patience, Lewis. We're only human.
Oh, actually, it's not that tune. It's like...
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if the RoboCop music theme had kicked in there, I would have been standing up in my seat like, woo! Third movie,
like,
let's
woo!
go! But when the second one ends, a part of me still like, I'd love to watch some more, but like, that's it.
That's yeah.
I can't ever bring myself to watch the third film again.
Oh, I think we can, my friend. Like, we watched Romulus. I can watch a Pimp-mobile driving RoboCop.
I can't.
He's got a jetpack.
I can't. I can't. I love the first movie so much.
What about the remake?
No. I'd rather watch RoboCop 3 than the remake.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Shit! Ian, what were your favourite scenes from RoboCop 2?
Oh, man. I mean, how do you not like most of the sequences just with RoboCop in, which is pretty much most of the movie? Like all the action sequences are given. I absolutely love the action sequences, especially all the fight sequences he has with Kane. I think the model work for Kane is just absolutely supreme. Don't get me wrong, love the ED-209 stuff, but man, when you see him scrambling up that elevator shaft and they both smash out that window at the top, you're like, whoa, ED-209 could not do that. I love the fact that RoboCop is just doing so much more cooler stuff in this. Like, he's riding a motorbike. Like in the first movie, he didn't even have any trousers, waist down. Now you get this leg on shot as he's bombing along. Like, I'm like, I want RoboCop to ride more. Why doesn't RoboCop have his own bike?
Right.
You know? The story stuff, yeah, it's definitely a bit weak. So there's nothing majorly that stands out. But I do like the sequence that he has with his wife at the beginning. You know, I love the, like I said, once again, the effect of Peter Weller stood there. And the way that Peter Weller emotes to his wife. You know, the wife character kind of trying to play off, like Gary said, that he's not hurt. Or maybe he's not because he's a cyborg. But, you know, he's trying to tell her, like, he's dead. but secretly I'm still him. I just can't. I know I'm hurting you now. Maybe that's it. There's so many different hidden messages. I do like the death of Officer Duffy because, like, when I was young, I'm like, what's this guy doing? He's not gonna. Oh my jeez! Oh my god!
It's the fact that you see the initial cuts going up the chest,
Yeah.
but then it's all screams and it's the reaction shots and it's the kid being forced to watch by Kane.
As well.
Like all of that is what makes it even more graphic than it actually was on screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's certainly some memorable moments in the film. Recapping the opening sequence, you know, it won't even drain your battery. I can't remember his name. The guy from Gremlins 2.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Something Glover. His little cameo appearance during that commercial. That's great. Your husband is dead. I don't know you.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
This is the only real emotional beat in the film that I think carries any weight. Like,
Yeah,
the
you're
kid
right,
dying
yeah.
later
The
and
kid
RoboCop
dying.
holding his hand, it
He's
does
he's
nothing.
a bad guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But the sequence where he's severing all ties with his family, coming off the back of the first film, that's some tough stuff. And I can understand why Aronofsky wanted to take that into a whole other film, which never materialized. But I can understand that story there would be interesting, but it's not RoboCop per se. It's a part of what RoboCop is, but it's not what the film should be if it's going to be the same as the first one.
Yeah.
But still, very great moment for me in the film. I'm having trouble as he's read the Miranda rights of the corpse after just dropping it. It's the comedic look back at the corpse,
Yeah.
back to Lewis, back to the corpse, like, oh yeah, and then let's go. It's like there are some funny moments in RoboCop 1, but not intentionally. This is where they went, let's do some comedy gags. And
That's
it's
it.
like, oh.
I mean, that I'll buy that for $1. And the first one is funny, but it's funny because you've seen game shows like it.
Yeah, it's also funny because the characters in the film are watching it and find it funny.
Yeah, watching some kid spray paint kick me on the back of RoboCop, it's just stupid.
Yeah.
A rolling stone is worth 2 in the bush.
Go fuck a refrigerator, peckerneck!
The thank you for not smoking moment. And like we've just said, the stupid moments. And I know it is stupid, but that one is memorable. The Help Save Motor City Rally, where we've got the guy with the violin. I was like, when I recognized the tune and then saw him doing the splits, I was like, I don't remember this. Like, if you were to see that segment, you would not think you were watching RoboCop.
No way.
This could be bad for OCP, Johnson. Scramble your best spin team. Like, his line delivery is the way he's just so straight-faced, like, straightening up his tie, like, everyone's gonna be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. We'll pay off all the bodies.
Yeah.
You know.
Those are my favourite moments of the film, but of course, the moments with Tom Noonan, as little he is in the film, he's gone for the cold, calculated psycho compared to Clarence Boddicker, who's just in your face aggressive.
Well, that's it. I mean, Noonan is coming off the back of Manhunter.
Exactly, yeah.
know?
So he just felt like the more calculated one, the more intense one.
Yeah.
And that's really cemented in the scene where they execute the police officer, where he forces the kid to watch it. And you're like, that's like the most evil he is really in the film. Because other than that, he is, I guess, just making a designer drug.
Well,
so he's not as twistedly evil as the others, but he's still a menace.
The funny thing is, like, I remember when I first watched this on VHS, you have that Asian woman at the beginning who's in the limo.
Yeah, that he executes her, yeah.
Yeah, but in the VHS version that I had, he didn't kill her. She's talking to him, pleading, and then
she just falls out.
And then they kind of just push her out of the car. Where watching on DVD, you watch him kind of just pull out a gun and shoot her, and I'm like, oh, you're really wanting him to be evil, right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I do think that they may have toned down the original release of RoboCop 2 because after the success of the first one with cartoons and merchandise and kids seeing
video
it,
games,
the subsequent movies got aimed more and more at a child demographic. So yeah. But Ian, do you still recommend RoboCop 2?
I still recommend RoboCop 2, but at the same time, I will openly admit it is not as good as the first movie, but it is 10 times the movie that RoboCop 3 is. Like I said, for me, RoboCop 2 is just quintessentially 90s. You know, it's grungy. Like, there's just such newer things going on that you needed to up the ante a bit, so the special effects look a little bit better. The storyline is trying to do so much, but it's just not ticking boxes. But Peter Weller is walking around in that bluish, not silver, bluish suit, and he's kicking ass and looking fun, and I do enjoy it. I do sit there sometimes and think I should watch RoboCop, but do I watch RoboCop 2? And 90% of the time I'm like, yeah, just to finish off Peter Weller's arc. So yeah, RoboCop 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely a fun sequel that sadly is inferior to the original in every way. Yet, however, is still largely entertaining with some good action and effects. Irvin Kershner, for the most part, managed to retain the tone and satire from the original with crazy commercials and corrupt corporations, while adding in much more silly humour this time around, and there is a fair amount of dumb and wild ideas in the film that it doesn't fully explore, but the connective tissue is there, along with returning cast members, to make this feel like a true follow-on film. Peter Weller is fantastic in the role. He's iconic. Great movement and line delivery, backed up by a severely underused Nancy Allen and Tom Noonan that both deserved more screen time here. The stop-motion effects and miniatures and animations are great. Dated, yes, but impressive as hell in 1990. Testament to the work of Phil Tippett and his teams. The music by Leonard Rosenman was largely disappointing. It lacked the punch and weight of the original, and it dropped the theme entirely. So, yeah, it's more of the same and not as good, but still more than worth a watch. Explosions, shootouts, gore, suicidal robots. It's certainly more memorable than the remake. He's back to protect the innocent. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Behave yourselves!